Hello YouTube, this is Elwirfy and today we're going to be taking a look at kind of an idea that I had that I just figured, well, it's like a concept that I really want to talk about and really want to touch on, and I feel like, this is a pretty good example of, I can set a good example here. So, essentially, you'll notice that I only have out pretty much the core group of units that would be generally recommended to play if you're, starting out. Like, honestly, if you're starting out, I would say you want to get at least one HQ choice. This is one Marine squad. This is a second Marine squad. This is your elite choice, right? And then you have transports, which is the next step in upgrading. But you only need, like, in order to be successful, honestly, you only need that guy, the two troops, squads, and then your elite choice, right? And then you add on the fast, because this is fast, that's fast. Pretty much it gets your troops to where they need to be without exposing them to a lot of danger, which is kind of the point. And then also over here, you'll notice that I also broke up this squad. So we got we have the squad leader, the sergeant with 4 of his Marines, and then we have the missile launcher guy with 4 of his Marines. Now, why are they all broken up? Generally, if you're doing a kill points game and you're actually keeping track of the points instead of annihilation, which is what I've been playing, you don't want to necessarily split up your guys, because then you're giving your army more points. But if you are doing an objective-based game and kill points don't matter, you really want to be breaking up your Marines into 5-man combat squads, just so that way they're a bit more efficient. Now, let's say, for example, we have something like a we'll just use, I use this guy a lot for the examples. So let's say we take our our Death Company Dreadnought here, and he's moving to he's trying to get through for whatever reason. All right, so say he runs up and he's like, okay, who am I going to attack? Well, we'll just go for the closest one. So then these guys, including the flamer guy, are locked in combat, right? So then there's the pile-in step. Now they wouldn't get this far. This guy would absolutely slaughter these guys. These Marines would have no chance. But think about it. These 5 guys are locked in combat, and it's a losing battle. But the other 5 guys from this squad are actually completely fine. So they are able to. Well, now due to the rules, you're not necessarily allowed to fire into a close assault. But what this means is, while that's tied down, these guys can go off, and they can ignore it. They can ignore what's going on, and when all these guys do get wiped out, because they'll get wiped out, then these guys are still alive to fire, and we don't lose. Like, pretty much it prevents you from losing extra troops, right? So then we still have these guys 5 on the field, and then so pretty much as soon as the Dreadnought eliminates them, then all of the the remaining Marines can, these guys would move to get a line of sight on them. So they would step out to here, generally, right? And then all 3 of these groups would then be firing on this guy, and he'd have to, turn. His side armor would now be exposed, front armor getting hit by like a melta shot. All these things. Now, obviously, there will be other, forces, coming after you. So you need to understand that another great thing about the combat squad method is that it allows you to just go ahead and attack at will without, pretty much you're not restricted. You're not as restricted as with 10-man squads. 10-man squads deal more damage at once, and if it's a speed thing or an issue of maybe the combat squads are in different ranges, because all you need to do to get your troops in range is really just have one guy in range, right? So say these 2 guys were focused on shooting down this squad sees that there's more troops coming, so then this guy can turn and engage them and try and kill off a couple guys before so they shoot at one target. Then this group would probably jump into like a close assault scenario. If these guys were just Death Company, we pretend they're not orcs, pretend they're just Death Company. Then they get locked into a combat. But now this unit, because this unit was freed up and didn't have to fight in here, it means that it was able to do some damage here before it got taken out. And then for this example, the Terminators would move over, and they'd probably just finish off these guys would just get finished off pretty quickly. They're still just Marines in terms of when you're shooting at them. So then for my army, and now this is another interesting point. So up here, say that, you know, there was an issue of, you know, maybe there was an assault squad that, you know, was coming out, you know, and they were really, you know, they were worried about, you know, no, okay, so the dreadnought is like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna try and charge these guys. These guys still get to like a round of shooting and such, but you know, these assault marines really wanna tie up the combat squad over here to make sure that's not good. Well, for this squad up here, for example, you can actually now split the fire. That was an issue I had in the original battle report, or well, not the original, battle report 2, where I wanted to use my missile launcher to fire at something, so I did it, but then all the Marines were unable to fire. But if you split your forces, then once again, you can split your fire. So over here, this rocket launcher guy would, you know, or the missile launcher would get to fire a shot at the dreadnought, whereas this squad of, you know, just the Marines would have the chance to shoot at these guys as they're flying in. So that gives that added level of protection and flexibility to your army. Not to mention, you also generally, I don't like to put this guy with a squad. You can, just because I feel like if you're gonna lose him and control points don't matter, since my commander's not very strong, he doesn't have any special abilities, and I kind of rely more on my troops to win the day, I could easily just, you know, we could run him into whatever situation we need as like a meat shield. Obviously you don't want to lose him. And again, it's nice to unload your stuff early, so maybe, heck, as I've learned, maybe you'll be, you know, ramming, you know, and that's why I like having tanks. Tanks gives you a big presence on the battlefield that most people don't really understand when you're fighting. I'm going to talk more about that later, but for the sake of the combat squad argument, you know, it also allows more paths of attack. Because if there was, like, you know, 10 guys here, right? Because you're not allowed to move through your own units. Well, you can, but you know, they like die, pretty sure. Something along those lines. But if this was just one, you know, if it was one 10-man squad, you know, and you're trying to move up, you know, this guy, where's he gonna go? He's blocked. But if you have him split into 5x5, now granted, this, you know, on a bigger field, this generally isn't as much of an issue, but in urban fighting, especially, when we get into like more city type things, you want to be able to split your guys so you have that avenue of attack to be able to fight them off, you know. And plus, you know, like say these Terminators aren't here, you know, this is a drop pod, you know, the drop pod would probably not be here, right? Like that's a fair assumption. It'd probably be like, you know, it'd be back here, you know, open up all the flaps and all the Terminators would pop out behind, for example. Now obviously this isn't as big as a full army, you know, there'd be, you know, tons and tons of you know, bad guys coming out. But so, you know, Terminators would be out here, but the point is these guys wouldn't be focused on the Terminators. That'd be up to like a, you know, another unit of, I don't know. I have a lot of these guys. So that's why they're really good to be just enemies, to explain my point. You know, they'd be going to try and tie up the Terminators, so, you know, that's again why it's important to split into combat squads, so that way, you know, when these guys get attacked, these guys can, if needed, you know, they can turn and go ahead and shoot at these guys, which will make it much more efficient. So you can see, you know, it's a lot more impactful when you're able to split your forces, whereas like I've been doing, and I'm gonna probably think about not doing as much, because here's the thing, you can still fire at maximum strength of a 10-man squad. Like say this is a 10-man squad and it's gonna fire at the Dreadnought, that's fine. Say these guys were all together, you know, then I would make a choice of either. That's the thing. So yeah, so, you know, say these guys were like, you know what, we're gonna go after the missile launcher guy because we don't want our Dreadnought to get taken out. So we can either have all of these Marines here with all their shots fire into these guys, or we can have the one missile launcher shot try and take this guy out before he gets into close combat. That's where the tough decision making comes in, and that's why I feel like you don't want to be in this situation. You don't want to have to make a choice of who you're going to shoot at, if possible, because, you know, say these guys, they're going to close assault, they're going to probably kill like most of these guys. But if they're split, then only, you know, you can only lose a certain amount of guys per close combat assault. So if there's less guys in that assault, because you know, and this is also presuming that your guys aren't designed for melee combat. Like these guys, they're designed for melee combat, so they're just better. You know, they get the, you know, +1 on the charge, and they get a lot of dice. So yeah, that's another reason why you really, because the firepower is the same, right? So say these guys are split up. If we wanted to, we could still concentrate all of our fire onto these guys, which would be fine. You don't need to, the missile launcher doesn't have to fire at that. In fact, the missile launcher would probably fire a little blast template into this guy and try and weaken it. So it's a lot to think about. But I've also, well, in general, I've just really liked this idea of having combat squads over tactical squads. Plus, with a combat squad, you also don't need to bring as many troop choices. Like, say, for example, we wanted to run all 6 of our tanks in a smaller game. We could put a combat squad in one rhino, combat squad in another rhino. That's 2 troop choices. And then we could be running Terminators. We could get our Vindicators out here. We'll use the Ball Predators. And that could be our whole army, right? In a smaller game, that could totally pass. And there'd be enough firepower and punch. And plus, your Marines would just stay in the rhinos. They wouldn't bail out of the rhinos first turn to try and get extra shots off. They'd just sit in them, move to objectives and such. And if it's not objective based, then we would be probably using tactical squads inside of them, just so that way we have more forces on the field. Because in a tank heavy army, generally you're not going to want to ignore the infantry aspect, because that's also incredibly bad. That's a big no-no. Don't do that. All right, well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this combat squad tactics video. As always, I'm your host Elwirfy, and I'll be seeing you guys next time.